few weeks ago, the world was delivered the news that Sophie Turner and her hubby Joe Jonas were getting a divorce after 4 years of marriage and the creation of 2 kids. While the situation has been rocky from the start, the news just keeps on coming. This weekend, it was revealed that Sophie Turner would be suing Joe Jonas for wrongful retention of their children. This past Thursday, a representative for Joe Jonas shared a statement in response to Sophie's lawsuit that alleges that he is not allowing the children to return to England. The main claim is that after multiple conversations with Sophie, Joe initiated divorce proceedings in Florida. According to the man, Sophie was well aware of the fact that there was a divorce taking place, when she actually claims to have gained the information first from social media. There is already an order in place that restricts both of these parents from relocating the kids at this time, an order that was apparently served to Sophie on September the 6th. While Sophie is claiming that Joe is essentially holding them captive, Joe's representatives maintain that Sophie's claims came after a brief Sunday hangout with the kids in New York. Joe's impression of that day was that it went great and that he and Sophie had reached an agreement on where the kids were going to stay and how they were going to be parenting them going forward. But the next day, she called Joe and demanded that the children be returned to her in the UK. She also demanded that Joe handed over their passports so that she could take them out of the country as soon as possible. Joe has responded to the situation, claiming that all of these accusations are completely false. And a fun fact, as of writing this video, it was announced that in order for the court cases to proceed, that these two will need to undergo parenting classes while things play out. These 4-hour legally mandated courses held by the Florida court. The order states, all parties to dissolution of marriage proceedings with minor children or to paternity proceedings shall be required to complete the Parent Education and Family Stabilization course prior to entry by the court of a final judgment. This order also prohibits the relocation of the children on both parts. While Sophie has been dragging Joe's name through the mud, he's been entirely on the defensive. According to Joe himself, Sophie is just using a tactic to bring the court case to the UK, where apparently it would be a lot easier for her to relocate the kids permanently. The original news when these two first split was that they were going to be co-parents. The kids have been with Joe for a while now due to Sophie filming a TV series outside of the US. While she may be claiming he's withholding them or trying to do something sinister, most of the evidence points to a massive misunderstanding. So far as the world knows, there is no reason for Joe to withhold anything from Sophie unless it had to do with the safety of the kids. It's important to note that Joe is the one who filed for the divorce and has been maintaining his position as a dad throughout it all. According to the paperwork filed for the divorce, the marriage between Joe and Sophie is irretrievably broken. Sophie must have done something pretty hardcore for Joe to leave her, especially since they had already started a family together. Joe has not been doing himself any favors since the announcement of their divorce. Originally, the world was under the assumption that maybe Joe had possibly cheated on her. According to Joe, the reason was Sophie's partying lifestyle just did not mesh with his. The claims have been disputed and called silly, as not only has Sophie rarely been seen out and about as much as her hubby, but she said a dozen times over the years that she's like a homebody and a major introvert. Meanwhile, Joe has been on tour over the years, and many fans have shared photos of him just living it up. For someone claiming that they prefer to stay home, this guy really does like to splurge. In fact, Sophie was pregnant and raising a kid for at least half of their relationship, so people were like, when would she actually have time to party? Well, it turns out that she has a lot of time now, as she's been photographed living it up in the UK a couple weeks ago, clearly taking some time off to let off some steam. It's been recently confirmed that something is definitely going on in the realm of cheating or some kind of like an outside marriage deal. The exact details are unknown, but a lot of people speculate that the entanglement might have taken place a few months ago because Joe was photographed without his wedding ring for a short period of time, but only a few days before the divorce was announced, it magically returned to his finger. But it's not just their divorce that's been this rocky road. When they first met, it was just as chaotic as you may expect. In an interview with Harper's Bazaar UK in 2019, Sophie spoke about these two meeting, and she basically said that they got set up. She explained that they had a lot of mutual friends and they'd been trying to introduce these two for a long time. Apparently they were following each other on Instagram, and Joe direct messaged her one fine afternoon. just completely out of the blue. Soon after the meeting, he invited her to meet up while his tour was passing through the UK. She said that the two of them had an instant connection, even though she hadn't expected to like him. She said that he didn't bring any security, he brought a friend, and they drank just as hard as the rest of them. She remembers the two of them spending only a couple of minutes on the dance floor together, and then they found a space in a far corner and just kinda talked. Sophie went on to say that they talked for hours and hours, but she was never bored. She felt that the conversation wasn't contrived and it wasn't small talk. From her point of view, it was just easy peasy. She said that soon they were inseparable, and then she went on tour with him. So at that point, it seemed like she had really fallen hard for him, and marriage came pretty soon after that. Joe Jonas was 28 years old when he popped the question to his then 21-year-old girlfriend Sophie. Now, a lot of people believe that age is but a number, and many didn't find this to be a big deal at first. An insider close to the couple revealed that they were madly in love, and while Sophie is a little bit younger than Joe is, she grew up in a small English town, and it's not really out of the ordinary of an age difference to be glossed over. Many fans also came to her defense, citing that her mental maturity was far greater than Joe's, because while she may have been 21, she was forced to grow up fast, and because of that was probably like 30 mentally speaking. Joe and Sophie tied the knot in Las Vegas, Nevada, after publicly claiming several times that they were in no rush to get married. After telling the world that they'd be taking time off for themselves following their engagement, it was not less than a month later that they tied the knot and attended the Billboard Music Awards literally the next day, like right after they got their license. They went to a little wedding chapel in Las Vegas that's actually famous for its star weddings, like Britney Spears' marriage to her friend Jason Alexander for a couple of days. Not to mention the wedding featured some huge Vegas cliches. There was an Elvis impersonator that was literally their officiant. Many speculate that Joe was trying to prove something to his brothers by throwing the exact opposite style of weddings that they did. Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra had an extravagant $1 million wedding spanning multiple days. The only people in attendance for Joe and Sophie, though, were Joe's brothers, DJ Khaled, and Diplo. They also didn't wear the traditional dress and suit. Instead, they opted for slacks and jeans, and to cap it all off, they used ring pops instead of real rings to seal the deal. And I feel like I'm describing a dream I just had. Sophie Turner previously admitted to OK Australia in 2016 that she's never dated anyone who she didn't know before or who was in the industry. And her reasoning was that in addition to being more focused on her acting career, her love life at the same time would be bogged down. She claimed that lifestyles were a massive contributing factor. Joe and Sophie had different ideas of what was fun. She went on to say how on-set romances are amazing but tend to be very temporary when it comes to, their time together. The logistics seemed to be her main concern. If she was filming in Australia, he was touring in the States, they'd never get to see each other. But after getting together officially with Joe, Sophie admitted that she did feel like she was in a bit of a fishbowl. Frustratingly for her, the smallest thing would make headline news. If she stubbed her toe on the sidewalk, it was in the news. Her frustrations were legitimate, but why maintain the charade for so long if you're uncomfortable with Joe from the start? So, what is the truth with Joe and Sophie? Well, right now it seems pretty straightforward. Sophie has started partying more and more, and she is being photographed doing things basically every day. As the weeks have gone by, more and more things just keep popping up. Meanwhile, Joe has just been taking care of the kids and fighting tooth and nail to keep his name in good graces. So, many people are divided as to what side to be on. Number 10, Jeremy Allen White and Addison Timlin. Jeremy made a big move in the acting world after his FX comedy series The Bear premiered on Disney Plus this past year, but he's actually been making people laugh, cry, and scream since starring as Lip Gallagher in the hit TV series Shameless, a show that I definitely haven't watched 10 times start to finish back to back. Definitely wouldn't do that. No sir. He met his future wife Addison on set of a film called After School in 2008. They were close friends for almost 12 years before becoming an official item in 2019. The relationship has mainly taken place behind the scenes apart from a few Instagram posts, but Jeremy's love for his wife has been well known since his acceptance speech at the 2023 Golden Globes, where he won the award for the best actor in a musical or comedy TV series. Unfortunately, roughly 2 months ago, Addison filed for a divorce from Jeremy with little to no explanation so far. 3 days following the divorce announcement, she posted a picture of herself with her daughter on Instagram and captioned it "Single Mom," which was apparently news to Jeremy, who was under the impression that they would be co-parenting. While their relationship may have ended in a mess, there might be a new one on the horizon horizon as Jeremy was spotted with Wizards of Waverly Place star Selena Gomez. Hey, Lip Gallagher and Alex Russo would be so cute together. Number 9. Natalie Portman. After 11 years of marriage, it was recently announced that Thor Love and Thunder star Natalie Portman and her husband, Benjamin Millipede, will be separating following a very public and messy affair on Ben's part. Ben, who I assume is named after a kid's cartoon, was spotted with a 25-year-old climate activist. While Portman was mad, she initially did try to work things out with Ben in an attempt to save their marriage, but the affair put a massive strain on their relationship. The couple had met on set of the 2009 drama Black Swan, with Ben acting as a scriptwriter for the project. While the affair had shaken up their relationship, when asked about the issues by Us Weekly, he said that he shared her pain and that he was sending her a new script. I don't know, while they may still be working together professionally, emotionally speaking, they have definitely checked out. Number 8. Drake Bell and Janet von Schmeling. Drake was a small screen sweetheart in the early 2000s, starring in several Nickelodeon shows and movies like Drake and Josh, The Amanda Bynes Show, and of course the live-action Fairly Odd Parents. He was on track to be a megastar in the world of Hollywood, but unfortunately is one of the many Nickelodeon stars who took a turn for the worse. He starred in a number of low-budget flicks over the years, but his status as a celebrity was gone at that point. The nail was finally driven into the coffin in 2021 when Drake was sentenced to 2 years of probation and 200 hours of community service after it was revealed that he had been grooming a younger fan for years. So if you see him in an orange jumpsuit cleaning graffiti off of a wall, you might know why. Recently, it was announced that his wife Janet had filed for divorce from Drake following that situation and another one where he was missing for 5 days on a bender doing God knows what with the strange women and friends that she had never met. On the actual paperwork, Vaughn has cited irreconcilable differences and has requested legal and physical custody of their younglings. In April of this year, Drake was reported missing only to turn up completely unharmed 5 days later, and according to Janet, Drake's mental health had slowly been declining in the last few years. His toxicity towards his partners is nothing new, as his ex Melissa Lingefelt accused him of being verbally manipulative and physically violent. Between his rocky history and declining mental health, we're happy to see that Janet got out of there before anything too crazy took place. Who knows how bad of a dad this guy could actually be? I mean, we all know he can't build a treehouse. Number 7. Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner. Joe and Sophie got together back in 2016 after they had been set up by mutual friends, something that they had been trying to do for quite some time. They got together and instantly fell in love, getting married just over a year after getting together. Sophie admitted to Rolling Stones in 2019 that she was hesitant at first. Joe was this big musician and she was a big TV and film star, meaning that most of the time they would be on opposite ends of the world. Eventually she warmed up and got together with Joe officially, but the split came out of nowhere. For the most part, their relationship has seemed to be stable on the outside. They were never a part of a cheating scandal, which is surprising considering Joe's lack of discretion in the past. There were never any strange rumors or photos, they were just this happy couple. But as of September 1st, Joe Jonas has filed for a divorce from Sophie, with the only current information being that Joe has claimed the relationship to be irretrievably broken. Something pretty serious must have gone on in a very short amount of time. Only hours before the announcement, Joe posted a photo of himself to Instagram with his ring on full display. Despite the minimal amount of tea spilt so far, we are in for a very messy divorce. Number 6. Britney Spears and Sam Asghari. Britney and Sam's marriage is in shambles. The couple that got together back in 2016 seemed to be great on the outside. As Britney was getting better overall, her relationship with Sam became more and more serious. Sam was right there by her side through thick and thin. Eventually they tied the knot in 2022, which is why it was so devastating for her fans to learn that the couple had called it quits just a little over a month ago. The words used on the actual divorce paperwork say irreconcilable differences, which for Hollywood people just tends to mean nothing good. Sam was the one to officially file for the divorce, demanding that Britney pay spousal support and attorney fees. Since this news is so recent, there is no current update on how the couple are doing or how deep into the process they are. Britney once again made headlines in the media, something that she hadn't really done since the early 2010s. Her divorce was covered constantly and the internet has been weighing in their decisions ever since. Number 5. Ariana Grande and Ethan Slater. So bear with me here for a moment because Ariana is actually the cause of this divorce, so strap in. The pop star and Broadway giant are set to star in a film adaptation of the Broadway Broadway hit Wicked, following the story of the Wicked Witch before the events of The Wizard of Oz. Ariana plays Glinda the Good, and Slater is Bach, the main love interest of the Wicked Witch. It's ironic that Ariana is the good witch though, as she appears to have stolen another woman's man. Ethan was married to a woman named Lily J since 2018, and the pair even welcomed their first child into the world in 2022. Apparently, Ariana and Ethan fell in love on set and started dating behind the scenes. However, on-set insiders shared the information to Slater's wife, who was furious, and while the couple have agreed to raise their child as co-parents, Ethan officially filed for a divorce in July of this year. Number 4. Billy Porter and Adam Smith. Billy and Adam have been together for 6 years before recently announcing their amicable divorce. The American Horror Story star and his husband Adam met after being introduced by a mutual friend in 2009. They briefly dated but ultimately split before getting back together in 2015 and tying the knot a year later. Over the past few years, they have been one of Hollywood's favorite couples, regularly being spotted at award ceremonies and fancy events, just happily holding each other. It's so cute, it makes me want to vomit. Unfortunately, their relationship seems to have slowly fizzled out as they announced they would be filing for a divorce. The decision came from a conversation that they had and a decision that they made mutually, claiming they will remain friends for the rest of their lives. However, the online rumors and backlash suggest that something a little bit darker has taken place behind the scenes. They've asked everyone to give them some privacy, so why don't we skip some bad jokes and not get into the rumors and just move on to the next entry. Number 3. Shannen Doherty and Kurt Israyenko. This past April, the alumni of Charmed filed for a divorce from her husband Kurt after 11 years of marriage. She was photographed in March without her wedding ring on display, causing many to assume that the divorce had been something planned for quite some time. As with most celebrities who file for divorce, the couple cited irreconcilable differences. Shannen claimed that the divorce was the last thing she wanted. Unfortunately, her hubby left her no options. While there was no real confirmation on what was happening behind the scenes, according to Shannen herself, Kurt's agent was intimately involved with their divorce. Neither Kurt nor his agent has spoken out about the rumors, probably because they're too busy getting down. Ooh. Number 2. Noel Gallagher and Sarah McDonald. The former Oasis frontman, now in his mid-50s, revealed that himself and his wife Sarah would be filing for a divorce after 12 years of marriage. According to Noel, the couple simply got bored with each other, something not uncommon for people in their 50s. Speaking with Ireland's Hot Press magazine, Sarah told the outlet that the split was because she was sick and tired of Noel's partying habits. Even at the age of 55, this guy is acting like he's 20 years old, coming home late and reeking of no-no juice. Noel denied the claims and said that it was because of 2020 and being stuck with her for months on end. Noel claimed that while he hated his time in isolation, it was a very revealing time in his life. He was able to work on songs that were unfinished, as well as create some new ones. Much like a ton of couples at that time, they were realizing that they just weren't good at sharing a space. Before, they were able to go out and about and be alone, but for a solid 6 months, it was just them in a house every single day. So we get it. Number 1. Reese Witherspoon and Jim Toth. Over the years, Reese made quite the name for herself, starring in films like Legally Blonde, Walk the Line, and Hot Pursuit. She was well known for being a comedic actor able to tap into her serious side when the time came for it. Along for the ride right up until 2023 was Jim Toth. Jim has starred in a handful of projects, but mainly acts as a producer, creating sitcoms like According to Jim. The couple first got together in 2011 and quickly tied the knot. Over the last 12 years, there was never a sign that this couple was headed for disaster, but that may be due in part to them not getting out much. Reese has continued to act fairly steadily over the years, but for some reason, she has been appearing less and less in the public. Perhaps there was something going on behind the scenes, as the announcement came only 2 days before they were supposed to celebrate their 12-year anniversary. According to a statement released by both of them, the decision was a mutual one, saying that they enjoyed their time with each other, but things just don't work out sometimes. Number 10. Partying too hard. Joe has not been doing himself any favor since the announcement of this divorce. In the past few days, he's made several claims as to the reason that Sophie may have decided to leave him. Originally, the world was under the assumption that Joe had possibly cheated on her, but according to Joe, the reason was her partying lifestyle didn't mesh with his stay-at-home lifestyle. The claims have been disputed and called silly, as not only has Sophie rarely been seen out and about as much as her hubby Joe, but she said a dozen times over the years that she is a homebody and a super massive major introvert. Meanwhile, Joe has been on tour for over a year, and many fans have shared photos of him just living it up. For someone claiming that they prefer to stay home, this guy really sure does like to splurge. Not to mention, he claims that Sophie has been behaving like this since they first got married. It only took 4 years for her to leave. Yeah, that makes no sense. In fact, she was pregnant and raising a kid for about half of their relationship. When would she have had time to party? Well, it turns out she might have time now because she was photographed living it up in the UK this weekend, clearly taking some time off to let out some steam. Number 9. Not getting Game of Thrones. Sophie rose to mainstream stardom when she was just 13 years old, playing the role of Sansa Stark on Game of Thrones. HBO found a gem when they casted Sophie, and thanks to her performance and that of her incredible co-stars, the show received 8 seasons and launched her career. One person who did not get that show at all was her husband, Joe Jonas. Early on in their relationship, Sophie was nervous about losing Joe if they were to spend extended time away from each other. Her concerns were not shared by Joe, as he was pretty oblivious as to exactly how popular the series was. Joe's had mixed opinions on the show, revisiting it from time to time, but as he got closer with Sophie, he became more and more uncomfortable with watching the show. Now, I've personally never watched more than maybe a handful of episodes, but in those handfuls, I saw, well, handfuls of bits and bobs that you're not usually supposed to see on TV. Then there is, of course, the graphic scenes of both lovemaking and, fighting, so I can imagine why Joe might not love this show. Game of Thrones is Sophie's baby, so when Joe talks about the show, you can see her visibly disappointed in what he's saying. Hey Joe, if you want to roast Game of Thrones, do it online like everybody else does. Number 8. She's messing with a gold digger. According to an inside source close to this couple, Joe was beyond excited when he started dating Sophie, and it sounds like it might be because of her money. According to the source, one of the main reasons that Joe is so smitten with his ex-man wife is because she is able to provide for herself and for him. Sophie does not let Joe pay for things most of the time, something that the musician is not used to, but is clearly taken advantage of over the years. When speaking about his wife in interviews, Joe kinda backed up this gold digging theory, as the first and foremost thing he mentions is how much he loves her independence, cause she buys him stuff all the time and he loves it. While many praise Sophie for her efforts, many people began pointing out this red flag and expressing their discomfort, knowing that Joe Jonas doesn't pay the bill when he's out with his lady. Maybe that's why they're getting divorced. She kept tabs and the bill finally came due. This man has just slowly been milking her for everything she's got. Think about all the places that they've traveled as a couple. This dude must have gotten away with millions. Number 7. Cheating on her. The current tea spilling across the internet is that Joe Jonas is entirely to blame for the situation happening between himself and Sophie. The initial reports that came from Joe and his PR team was that the relationship was irretrievably damaged. There were no specifics, but he was making it sound like something truly terrible had happened. Usually when someone shares something like this, it means a cheating scandal or something possibly worse. But Joe released a statement claiming that she was leaving him so she could party it up without him dragging her down. Fans and Sophie herself were quick to remind Joe that she doesn't flock to the club like he does, as previously mentioned. While she was partying in the UK this past week, it seems like it was just for celebratory reasons. It's now been confirmed that something most definitely happened in the realm of cheating. The exact details are unknown, but many speculate that the entanglement took place only a few months ago, as Joe was photographed without his wedding band for a short period of time, but only days before the divorce announcement, it had magically returned. Number 6. Hesitate. Joe wrote what is considered to be the sweetest love song of all time for Sophie Turner. While the song Hesitate is a slow jam that's worth your listening time, the actual lyrics had some people raising some pretty serious red flags. The highlights of the lyrics include "Kiss the tears right off your face," "Time heals if we work through it," and "I promise we will figure this out." All of these sound like examples of Joe trying to say, "Hey, I'm sorry I've hurt you, but we can fix this together." What did he do? There were never any cheating scandals reported before the divorce was announced, but this song clearly sounds like him apologizing for some serious infidelity. Or did he just want to start a rumor himself? The lyrics have been broken down by superfans, not by me, lame. Many Jonisians have theorized that Joe included the revealing lyrics on purpose to create this fake story. These days, relationships are at the top of the media storm. This year alone, we've seen over 20 chaotic public divorces play out. The current news is that Joe did in fact fall back to his cheating ways, and this may have been the thing that finally sent Sophie off the edge and Joe out the front door. Number 5. flirting in front of her. When these two first got together, it was believed that Joe had all of the leverage. Now why? Well, apparently Sophia was into him for quite some time, but she was aware that Joe was not known for his commitment skills. When they first met, he was a player. According to several women, he was seeing them simultaneously and without each other's knowledge. Joe's tone shifted when he met Sophie, and by December of 2016, he was becoming a one-woman kind of guy. According to Sophie, they were intoxicated with each other and began dating exclusively. However, it appears that he was playing the field for so long that he forgot to turn off his game. Joe was constantly flirting with women at his shows, and now while it may have been accidental, the fact that he's not aware of what he's doing is definitely cause for concern. Number 4, dissing the X-Men to Sophie's face. For those who may not remember, Sophie has actually been a part of a few major motion projects. Now, while she's mainly known for her role in Game of Thrones, many Marvel fans may know her as Jean Grey from the last 2 X-Men movies released by Fox. According to Joe himself, when he first saw Sophie in X-Men Apocalypse, they were still very fresh into their relationship. However, they were close enough for Joe to just roast the movie from start to finish right to her face. The world collectively agreed that Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix are terrible movies. If you haven't seen them, just trust me. But that Sophie and the cast overall are not the problem. But that didn't matter to Joe. In what has been described as a full-on rant, Joe told Sophie that the movie was a waste of time. He claimed that it was an insult to superhero movies and that she should be thankful that Fox got sold to Disney. Ouch. Sophie took the insults in stride and bounced back with reminding Joe that she was in a movie. Even his own brother Nick has acted more than Joe has, and he was a Disney kid. Number 3, forcing her to stay in America. Sophie Turner was born in the United Kingdom in Northampton. Ever since she made it big in the States, it's been her dream to return to the UK to live permanently and to raise her family. Joe is completely against that idea. From the time they were together right up until this past week, the idea of moving to the other side of the globe with his wife was just not something that excited the pop star. Sophie has spoken out about the issue several times over the years, but never really got into the specifics. It turns out that while the Jonas brothers are world famous, Joe is of course more comfortable on his home turf, which is the exact same thing that Sophie's trying to get at. He tore down any hope she had of living with him and their child, so it looks like she decided to just do it on her own instead. Number 2, tried to ride her coattail. As Joe's relationship with Sophie progressed, he started showing his true colors. While Sophie has not starred in many projects since becoming a mom, deciding to take time off to focus on herself and her family, Joe spends the majority of his time on a bus with his crew. Apparently the decision to not be a stay-at-home dad was one that he made the moment they got together. Throughout her entire pregnancy, an insider close to Sophie revealed that Joe was trying to get acting gigs based on her recommendations. While this woman was literally growing their spawn, he was like, "So, can I be in the next X-Men movie?" Like, come on, guy, you were on the Disney Channel. You telling me you can't walk into an office and just smile? How do you think Nick Jonas got a role in Jumanji? His acting skills? No. It feels like his decision to go on tour was an act of spite. One of the main things that Sophie was worried about from day one was a distance due to work, and look where they are now. And at number 1, they called off their marriage as a joke. Joe and Sophie tied the knot in Las Vegas after publicly claiming several times that they were in no rush to get married. Now, after telling the world that they'd be taking time off for themselves following the engagement, it was not less than a month later that they tied the knot and attended the Billboard Music Awards directly after getting their license. They went to a little wedding chapel in Las Vegas that's famous for its star weddings, like Britney Spears' marriage to her friend Jason Alexander that lasted about 2 days. What many people may not know is that only one day before the ceremony, Sophie and Joe got cold feet and actually broke up. While the idea came from a mutual place, Joe was apparently under the impression that this was a prank that she was trying to pull. Get him out to the desert and abandon him. Hilarious. When they did eventually get back together, Sophie was just shocked at Joe's assumptions. If Sophie had never reached out, how long was Joe going to run with the bit? Number 10, how they met. In an interview with Harper's Bazaar UK in 2019, Sophie spoke about their meeting and she basically said they got set up. She explained that they had a lot of mutual friends and they had been trying to introduce them for quite some time. Apparently they were following each other on Instagram and he direct messaged her one fine day out of the blue. Soon after the meeting, he invited her to meet up, up with his tour that was passing through the UK. She said that the two of them had an instant connection, even though she hadn't expected to like him. She said he didn't bring security, he brought a friend, and they drank just as hard as the rest of us. I remember us two spending only a couple of minutes on the dance, and then we found a space in the far corner and we just talked. Sophie went on to say that they talked for hours and hours, but that she was never bored. She felt that the conversation wasn't contrived, it wasn't small talk. From her point of view, it was just easy. She said soon they were inseparable, and then she went on tour with him. So at that point, it seemed like she had really fallen hard for this dude, and marriage came very quickly after that. Like very quickly, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Number 9, age is but a number. Joe was 28 years old when he popped the question to his then 21-year-old girlfriend Sophie. A lot of people believe that age is just a number. Many didn't find this to be a big deal at first. An insider close to the couple revealed that they were madly in love, and while Sophie is a bit younger than he is, she grew up in a small English town, so it's not completely out of the ordinary for an age difference to be glossed over. Many fans also came to her defense, citing her mental maturity. While she may have been 21, she was forced to grow up very fast, and because of that, she was probably closer to like a 30-year-old mentally speaking. The red flag is that much like celebrities like Leonardo DiCaprio or Al Pacino, Joe tends to date people much younger than himself, like supermodel Gigi Hadid. His oldest girlfriend was Taylor Swift. She was a whole 4 months older than him. Wow, make way for grandma! Despite how uncomfortable many fans found the age gap to be, the couple did not care, and really, that's what matters. Number 8, Flirty McGurty. When these two first got together, it was believed that Joe had all of the leverage. Why? Well, Sophie was into him for quite some time, but she was aware that at the time, Joe was not known for his commitment skills. When they first met, he was a player, and according to several women, he was seeing them simultaneously and without each other's knowledge. Joe's tone shifted though when he met Sophie. By December of 2016, he was becoming a one-woman kind of guy. According to Sophie, they were intoxicated with each other and they started dating exclusively. However, it appears that he was playing the field for so long that he's forgotten to turn off his game. Joe was still flirting with women at his shows, and while it may have been accidental, the fact that he's not aware of what he's doing was cause for concern. Not only has Joe flirted with other people in the past, but apparently his ex Sophie did as well, with one of Joe's close friends whose jaw literally dropped when he saw her in real life. Number 7, the private PDA? Despite crying out to the public to just leave them alone, Sophie and Joe were known for their aggressive PDA. Whether it's getting cozy at an awards show, or at a Kings of Leon's concert, or during a shopping trip. Page 6 reported that in May of 2017, the couple went into a dressing room together in a Soho boutique. According to the report, the couple entered the change room and a customer noticed both of them in bare feet below the door. Now, while it's super creepy that someone was just peeking under doors in Soho, it was clear that Sophie was trying on clothes for Joe in the privacy of their own little room. When they exited, they noticed the couple to be giggly and very touchy-feely. Now, while being close isn't a bad thing per se, these two have constantly asked the world to ignore them and stop focusing on their love lives. Well, hey man, then stop licking your wife in public. Number 6, in and out. Las Vegas weddings. Quick, easy, and everlasting. Joe and Sophie tied the knot in Las Vegas after publicly claiming several times that they were in no rush to get married. After telling the world they'd be taking time off for themselves following their engagement, it was not less than a month later that they tied the knot and attended the Billboard Music Awards right after getting their license, like on the exact same day. They went to a little wedding chapel in Las Vegas that's famous for its star weddings, like Britney Spears' marriage to her friend Jason Alexander for 2 days. Not to mention, the wedding featured some huge Vegas cliches. There was an Elvis impersonator literally officiating the thing. Many speculate that Joe was trying to prove something to his brothers by throwing the exact opposite of their weddings. Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra had an extravagant $1 million wedding spanning multiple days. The only people in attendance for Joe and Sophie were Joe's brothers, DJ Khaled and Diplo. They also didn't wear the traditional dress and suit, instead opting for slacks and jeans. To cap it all off, they used ring pops instead of real rings to seal the deal. Man, I feel like I'm describing a dream that I had. Number 5, Sophie was hesitant. Sophie Turner previously admitted to OK Australia in 2016 that she's never dated anyone who she didn't know before or who is in the industry. Her reasoning, well, in addition to being more focused on her career than her love life at the time, she claimed that their lifestyles were a contributing factor. Joe and Sophie had different ideas of what was fun. She went on to say how on-set romances are amazing, but they tend to be very temporary when it comes to their time together together, so that was a big fear for her. The logistics seemed to be her main concern as well. If she was filming in Australia and he was on tour in the States, how would that work? They'd never see each other. After getting together officially with Joe, Sophie did admit that she felt like she was in a fishbowl. Frustratingly for her, the smallest thing would be made into headline news. If she stubbed her toe on the sidewalk, it was in the front page. Her frustrations are legitimate, but why maintain this charade for so long if you're uncomfortable from the start? Number 4. Short and sweet. Before being engaged, the couple only dated for a very short time. Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner were first linked after attending a Halloween party together in 2016. The singer showed up dressed as a Dalmatian, while his love interest sported some pink sequins bunny ears, according to People magazine. Less than a week later, they were spotted looking very comfortable at the pre-MTV European Music Awards event in the Netherlands, where Kings of Leon's performed. Less than a year after getting together, Sophie was spotted with a ring on her finger, and the engagement was confirmed. Many people get engaged early in their relationship, but as you've seen through this video, this was a case of rushing into things a little too quickly considering some of the other entries on this list. Number 3. She's messing with a gold digger. According to an inside source close to the couple, Joe was beyond excited when he started dating Sophie, and sounds like it's because of her money. According to the source, one of the main reasons that Joe is so smitten with his ex-man wife is because she is able to provide for herself and for him. Apparently Sophie does not let Joe pay for most things, something the musician is not used to. When speaking about his wife in interviews, Joe kinda just backed up the whole gold digger theory, as the first and foremost thing that he mentions is how much he loves her independence. He literally said, "She buys me stuff all the time. I love it." While many praise Sophie for her efforts, many people started pointing out the red flag and expressing their discomfort knowing that Joe Jonas doesn't pay the bill when he's out with his lady. Maybe that's why they're getting divorced. Maybe she kept the tabs and the bill finally came due. Number 2. Different love languages. According to Sophie herself, she learned that a majority of what she knows about physical intimacy was from her time on the HBO series Game of Thrones. I'm not sure why this needs to be said, but I'm gonna say it. Don't treat Game of Thrones as something to learn from. Dragons aren't real. They're not real, Nate. Thanks to the show, it may have skewered her view on what proper intimacy looks like. Meanwhile, Joe just seems to love chit-chatting about his private parts. Seriously, like every chance this guy gets, it's genitalia. He boasted to Vulture in December of 2013 about removing his purity ring, which himself and his brothers Kevin and Nick rocked during their Disney days. In October of 2016, he then talked about the size of his little dinghy compared to that of his brothers, which is just too much information. Very uncomfortable. He goes on to recount the time that he lost his V card and about becoming a little bit too excited while filming music videos with Ashley Graham and Charlotte McKinney. Sophie has expressed her disappointment in this lack of restraint and has begged him to quit numerous times, but he persists and now they're divorced. And at number 1, Joe took off his wedding ring first. In the weeks leading up to this divorce announcement, Joe was photographed without his wedding ring quite a few times. One of those moments was as far back as August 11th, when he was picking up an iced coffee in New York City. But since then, he's made a point of wearing it again, even as the couple have officially filed for divorce. On Monday, Joe posted a black and white photo on Instagram that showed him looking at the camera and holding a cup with his wedding band prominently on full display. Then, just this morning, he posted a statement to Instagram claiming that it was from the two of them. It said, "After 4 wonderful years of marriage, we have mutually decided to amicably end our marriage. There are many speculative narratives as to why, but truly this is a united decision and we sincerely hope that everyone can respect our wishes for privacy for us and our children." This is quite a shock considering that the news only broke a few days ago. Sources spoke to TMZ and said that Joe had his people contact at least 2 divorce lawyers in LA, and the couple has had serious problems in their relationship for at least 6 months. Number 10, she knew already. While all of the controversy surrounding Russell has come to light this year, it seems that Katy Perry may have known exactly who Russell was very early on in their relationship. An interview with Vogue magazine from 2013 has been making rounds online. During the interview, Katy reflects on her brief marriage to Russell, claiming that she felt responsible for the dissolution of their union until she found out the real truth. When they first met, Russell wanted to find an equal, but once he got that equal, he could no longer handle the equalness. She went on to say that he became very controlling as time went on, and while at first she felt responsible for the split, she discovered the truth eventually. The truth was something that she, quote, "can't necessarily necessarily disclose because she keeps it locked in a safe for a rainy day. It sounds like Katy not only knew of the misconduct back in 2013, but she actively kept that information to herself. Had she just come forward, this entire situation could have been addressed a long time ago, but the victims were only willing to share their experiences after being hounded by reporters. Whether she planned on revealing the information at a later date or not, she denied the people that Russell hurt a chance to speak up as soon as possible. Number 9. Tried to have a baby. Katy admitted that while she was married to Russell Brand, that the topic of starting a family was a regular conversation. For Katy, it was pretty simple. She did not want to start a family with someone who she was pretty confident would use that family as an excuse to control her, but Russell is, a wholesome family man who's just ready to settle down, right? Katy admitted during an interview with Marie Claire that she was scared of Russell trying to make her a stay-at-home mom. When these two were a couple, Russell had some popularity in films and TV, but Katy Perry was, Katy Perry. She kissed a girl and she liked it. She was hot and cold and she blew up like a firework. Make 'em go, I'm sorry, I gotta get that out of my system. I just got a little carried away sometimes. As the relationship went on, the conversation stayed the same. Not ready till she knows he's gonna be a good dad and let her do her thing. Well, that was certainly not the case, and Katy believes that her unwillingness to bear a child is one of the main causes of Russell's decision. Whether that's true or not, Katy clearly made the smartest decision of her life when she said no to this man. Clearly a word that he was used to hearing, but he's known to ignore it. Oh, that guy sucks. Number 8. She was almost a victim. The allegations being brought against Russell claim that he is known for being aggressive, handsy, and just an overall nightmare of a human being. It's not even close to the right word, but it's the only one I can use. The general consensus is that this man is not good at first impressions. Most of the accounts being brought forward claim Russell to have been a tyrant since the moment they've met, with each allegation worse than the last. Katy's first interaction with Brand was filming a scene for the 2009 comedy Get Him to the Greek, a spin-off of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, featuring his character Aldous Snow, the musician, and Jonah Hill as like a record label employee. Katy made a cameo appearance in a scene that was ultimately cut from the final project, and the scene saw Katy and Russell's characters just locking lips during the opening montage of his downfall. Katy told Glamour back in 2010 that at the time she was stoked to film the scene, but it was their second meeting that really should have been Katy's first warning sign. They rediscovered each other when Russell took the stage at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2009. Katy flung a bottle at him and he caught it, but after the show, he was furious. When Katy Perry approached him, he claimed that she was fiery and that she caught his attention. Katy went on to describe the interaction and what Russell attempted to do that very same night. Katy admitted that Russell attempted to force himself on her, but she was successfully able to steer clear of him. Russell was furious, but he listened to what she said and he apparently walked away. 4 months later, they were engaged. Katy may not have understood what was happening at the time, but considering the horror stories coming out about Russell, she may have saved herself from becoming just another one of his victims. Number 7. The text. Breaking up with someone over text is a stupid thing to do. That is one thing that many of us learn as we grow up. Face-to-face needs to happen when it's something serious like a breakup or personal issues. While most people learn that by the time they're in their, mid-20s, Russell is in his 40s and still doesn't seem to get the memo. Katy released a documentary concert called Katy Perry, Part of Me, containing a clip that really should have stalled Russell's career the moment that it came to air, but oh well. The clip shows Katy lying down in a makeup chair, sobbing, being told that she can either call it quits or continue the show. She had just received a text from Russell essentially asking her for a divorce. After a moment she stands and she's good to go, but during an interview in 2013 with Vogue, Katy told the outlet that she could not divulge the specific message that was sent. But to put it into perspective, she had not heard from him for 2 years following the cryptic text. We have to wonder what words he used and why he decided that a text was the best way to deliver this news. Literally makes no sense at all. Just none at all. Russell sucks. Number 6. Marriage went cold quick. Marriages do not have an exact timeline. Some last for 50 years, some for 50 days. For Katy and Russell, their marriage was cut short after only 14 months together. As previously mentioned, Russell was really the one who decided to call it quits, basically out of the blue. In the years since the divorce, Katy just maintains that Russell was slowly losing interest in her as a partner. According to Katy, Russell was jealous of her fame and would even attempt to berate her into thinking that he was the superior one in the relationship. When he decided to call it quits, she blamed herself at first, but soon discovered a secret truth about Russell that she keeps in her back pocket. The brief marriage is already a red flag in and of itself, but the timeline is just all over the place. Russell is known to be a chaotic man in general, sharing some pretty ridiculous views on politics, religion, everything. But during his time with Katy, that attitude never went away. According to her, he was constantly cornering her to spout his views, and he just would not let her go until she just kinda nodded and agreed. Now, it's not just Katy who has noticed Russell being an absolutely dreadful person. So for the rest of this list, let's talk about some general red flags that we've noticed over the years. Number 5, Aldous Snow. Aldous Snow is a character that Russell played first in the film Forgetting Sarah Marshall and then reprising the role in a spin-off called Get Him to the Greek alongside Jonah Hill. The worst thing about this character is just how easy it is for Russell to get into him. While doing press for the Greek, Russell was compared to his on-screen counterpart all of the time. This dude was always on no-no juice, partying hard. He was just basically Russell but on screen. But he would constantly deny any relations. In fact, during an interview with MTV, he told Laramie Legal that he was much more cool and mellow and slower, and not as silly as some of you may think. Well, no, that's not true. Jonah Hill has gone on record saying that filming with Russell was super difficult. While they were both dedicated to the craft, Jonah just took the project a bit more seriously than Russell did. Aldous Snow was set to be a regular character on the big screen, but following the release of his film Arthur, Russell's acting career as a leading man was basically just gone. Number 4, he was banned by the King. The comedian turned actor may be best known for Aldous Snow, but for Aldous Snow, or maybe his musical chops with the real fake band Infant Sorrow, but what many may not know is just how much this dude hates the royal family. Who am I kidding? It's obvious, just look at him! He took to YouTube to express his opinions and declared that it was ridiculous to have a queen and having to be forced to call her things like Your Majesty. Well, what's with Russell? He's such a jerk. He dug his hole even deeper when in his book Revelation, he criticized the queen for her German heritage, calling her a word that I'm not allowed to say online and don't Google it. Needless to say, this was a perfectly logical reason to ban Bran from entering the palace gates ever again in his life. He's actually one of the few celebrities in the entire world to receive this honor, so it really should have been the first big red flag when it came to this guy. Number 3, his rants. If there is one thing that Russell is well known for, it's his political and religious rants, which are usually pushed on people with, without their knowledge or permission. By that I mean you probably already paid good money to see this man live expecting a comedic performance, but you were instead met with some pretty messed up ideas about religion and just kind of the world in general. During one special on Netflix, Russell compared himself to Jesus a few times and gave several long-winded examples that I don't really want to repeat because, you know. This man has some truly dark beliefs. If you're curious what they are, just wait a year or two for the crime documentary to come out. Russell Brand, a special brand of evil. Man, that's a good title. I'm smart. Number 2, stand-up. His rants are not just limited to the paying stage. This man is known around the world as a fairly mid-comedian. Now, nowadays he's probably known as the creepy guy from Bedtime Stories, but if you've had the misfortune of popping into an open mic or maybe even onto the streets of England, there's a good chance that you've been forced to listen to Russell Brand's stand-up. His comedy is crude, he veers into rants and statements more often than telling jokes, and at the end of the day, people feel like they just witnessed an underwhelming TED Talk about Lord knows what. Now, I've personally only seen like 1 or 2 of this dude's stand-up specials, and I can say with confidence, he is not okay. He's really not. Number 1, and at number 1, Channel 4, BBC. BBC Channel 4 News has been a staple in the world of British television for years, and by staple, I mean it's responsible for some of the worst celebrity interviews you've ever watched, but we've talked about that in a different list. Channel 4 is on this list because they have all of the secrets just wrapped up into a little bow. Not only did the outlet literally help launch this dude's career, but they have recently been at the forefront of the media storm thanks to a little documentary centered around Russell that clearly outs him as a vile and disgusting man. He has treated so many people so terribly over the years, with justice finally being served and the proof clearly being in the pudding. We'll keep you guys updated on the situation as it comes up, and if you've seen the documentary, please share your thoughts. Those are the dark secrets that both Katy Perry and the entire world are hiding about Russell Brand.
At number 10, Luann and Tom D'Agostino. Real Housewives of New York cast members Luann and Tom D'Agostino weren't the greatest pair, and everyone on set could have told you that. The toxicity ran deep with these two, but most of it stemmed from Tom. The other cast members actually warned Luann about Tom, saying that he was untrustworthy and that he was still in love with his ex, but even with that warning, Luann continued her romance and the two got married on New Year's Eve in 2016. At the end of the show's 8th season, it was revealed that one of the cast members had compromising photos of Tom kissing another woman just days after his and Luann's engagement party. This was a big red flag, as you could imagine. Soon it became apparent to the public that there were some serious problems in their relationship, as Luann and Tom got into a heated argument in public at a restaurant, which ended with Luann slapping Tom across the face. This heated relationship and Tom's constant cheating never subsided, as days before their divorce announcement, Tom was caught with yet another woman, but at that point, no one was really all that surprised. They were only married for 7 months, but those were the craziest 7 months of their lives. Luann regrets not listening to her castmates when they warned her about Tom, and she wishes she never married such an awful person. At number 9, Chad Johnson and Evelyn Lozada. Chad Johnson, also known as Chad Ochocinco, and ex-wife Evelyn Lozada were only married for 2 months, but so much happened in that short amount of time to permanently damage their relationship. Their relationship was intense and toxic, but it wasn't until after they got married that the world really learned just how awful it was. After dating for less than a year, the two were wed in a 4th of July ceremony in 2012, but just 2 months later there came an incident that broke them apart. Evelyn recalled finding a receipt in Chad's car for items that prompted the idea that Chad was cheating. The two fought and it all ended with Chad seriously injuring his wife. Chad was arrested for battery and DV, and they divorced shortly after the incident. Evelyn did an interview after the ordeal where she opened up about her feelings on the situation and how her life had been affected by it. After that, the couple split up and moved on with their lives. Before we carry on talking about some of the worst celebrity marriages, let me first ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also consider subscribing to the channel as well to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Elizabeth Taylor and Conrad Hilton. Elizabeth Taylor was one of Hollywood's most memorable icons, and surprisingly, she was married 8 times. She had many stories and encounters to recall throughout her life, but one of her shortest and most regrettable marriages she had was to hotel heir Conrad Hilton. The two were only married for 205 days before undoing their marriage after feeling neglected and hurt by her new husband. She was only 18 at the time of her marriage, but shortly after their wedding, Liz recalled how indifferent Conrad was towards her and how hurt she felt when he spoke to her using abusive language. Liz won her divorce on the grounds of mental cruelty. She refused alimony and took back her maiden name. It was almost like it never happened, and Liz wanted it that way. She knew that she deserved better in life and refused to put up with Conrad's horrible treatment of her. During their honeymoon, the two reportedly fought a lot and spent more time apart than they did together, so this was one of the first red flags that things just weren't right between them. She later told news sources that her idea of marriage was very naive, and so she regretted her decision. She lived a better life without him anyway. At number 7, Ike and Tina Turner. Tina Turner is an absolute legend, and to think that someone would ever want to hurt this talented woman is honestly so sad. Ike and Tina were a musical powerhouse, but they had a tumultuous and toxic relationship, leaving Tina regretting having ever known him. The two met while Tina was still a teenager, and they began performing together, starting their musical act. In 1962, the two got married and continued to perform together for the following decade. Though they were a successful duo, Ike had been severely hurting Tina behind the scenes, causing her so much pain that she didn't deserve and even prompting her to try to take her own life. After surviving her attempt, she made it her mission to leave Ike and begin a fresh start on her own. That's exactly what she did, and she became an even bigger star because of it. At number 6, Jennifer Lopez and Ojani Noa. Jennifer Lopez is no stranger to walking down the aisle. She's been married 3 times already, but the one relationship that was her worst was her first marriage to Ojani Noa. Their marriage lasted less than a year, but their tumultuous drama that came after their divorce has lasted much longer. It seems as though their relationship was destined to fail, as Ojani documented a lot of JLo's life behind the scenes, saving it for later for his own tea spill. Noah tried leaking videos from the couple's honeymoon after their divorce, showing the singer in an intimate setting, and in years since has been very outspoken about the singer, her career, and even had plans to release a tell-all book about his ex, followed by a movie deal. He really came into the relationship for his own personal gain, not for love, it seems. JLo actually ended up suing Ojani in 2009 for $10 million, citing that the videos he released as well as the book and movie deals violated an agreement that they had, which prohibited him from exposing the singer's life. Jennifer now looks back on this relationship with regret and doesn't even count her marriage to Ojani as valid because of how short it was. At number 5, John Finlay and Joe Exotic. We all know about Joe Exotic and his crazy relationships. After he gained a little fame with the success of the Tiger King documentary on Netflix last year, he and the others involved in his life became sort of public figures. To give us more insight on Joe, his ex-husband John Finlay recently came forward to talk about his life after the documentary brought him some minor popularity, and he exposed his former relationship with the now imprisoned Big Cat owner and exposed their marriage. John cannot express enough how regretful his marriage to Joe Exotic was. John said that this whole marriage was fake and toxic and that it was just for Joe's popularity, remarking that the wedding that was shown in the documentary, which showed him, Joe, and Travis Maldonado, was all, quote, basically a publicity stunt so Joe could get his own reality TV series, end quote. John spoke out saying that he still carries the pain from his time with Joe and is trying to forget his past by moving on with his new wife and making steps towards having the tattoos of Joe removed from his body. Joe went through a lot of trauma when he was with Joe, but luckily he's moving on from this dark time in his life. At number 4, Madonna and Guy Ritchie. Here's a marriage that was messy and toxic in every way possible. Madonna and Guy Ritchie divorced over 10 years ago, but their hatred towards one another still lives on, even if it's not as much as it used to be. The two were married for almost a decade, but their distaste for one another has lasted much longer, and because of this negativity, they no doubt regret ever being married in the first place. They both brought their own toxicity into the relationship, so I guess it could be said that they both married awful people because they were just as bad as each other. It seems like their marriage turned sour because Madonna was working so hard on her career, and so things became strained between them and the hostility began to grow. Coming out of the divorce, the worst of it started to come out. Guy made a lot of harsh comments about his marriage to Madonna, comparing his relationship with the singer to a soap opera, and also said that she was more concerned with her public image than she was with their marriage. Madonna fired back at her ex in the past, saying that she felt like she was incarcerated during their marriage and that Guy was nothing but a gold digger. There is just a lot of drama there, which really shows that they weren't a good match at all. At number 3, Wendy Williams and Kevin Hunter Sr. In 2019, talk show host Wendy Williams exposed her husband's serious affair with his massage therapist. Wendy's 20-year marriage to husband Kevin Hunter Sr. was dissolved after he was accused of not only cheating on Wendy, but also fathering another woman's child. When news broke of Kevin's affair, it was also revealed that the mistress had given birth to their child, and upon discovering this information, Wendy called it quits right then and there. When speaking out about the whole dramatic affair, Wendy said, quote, "Look, my husband had a full baby with a woman he was involved with for 15 years. Infidelity is one thing, a full baby is a whole nother topic. A baby. I'm not changing Pampers. I want to be pampered. I learned from my mother how to make lemons into lemonade. What am I supposed to do? Stay in the house and cry all day?" End quote. She definitely regrets her marriage to Kevin just because of how serious his affair was. She married an awful person because not only did he end up cheating on Wendy, but he had a whole child with another woman. At that point, I'm sure you would wish that you had never met that person in the first place. At number 2, Alexis DeJoria, Sandra Bullock, and Jesse James. Once a cheater, always a cheater, right? That's normally how things go. Well, that's how drag racer Alexis DeJoria and Sandra Bullock feel about their ex-husband Jesse James. Jesse has earned the label of serial cheater after it was discovered that there was some serious infidelity plaguing not only his past relationship with Sandra Bullock, but also his most recent marriage to Alexis. Both Sandra and Alexis have been caught in a cheating scandal with Jesse, and his most recent scandal revealed that Jesse cheated on Alexis with at least 20 different women. According to some sources, it was revealed that Jesse snuck women into his family home with Alexis, as well as fly women out to Austin just to hook up with them in hotel rooms. It was also reported that Alexis tried her best to work things out with Jesse, but he just wasn't interested in making things work and healing their marriage. After all of this drama and broken trust, both Alexis and Sandra regret ever being married to Jesse because of how much disregard he seemed to have for both of their respective relationships. They both married an awful man, and they certainly deserved a better partner. And finally, at number 1, Mary-Kate Olsen and Olivier Sarkozy. After multiple attempts and a lot of drama, Mary-Kate Olsen filed for divorce from her husband Olivier Sarkozy in 2020. Mary-Kate had tried multiple times to file for divorce from her husband through the New York City courts last year, but because of the pandemic and stay-at-home orders in New York, she was denied twice before finally having her paperwork accepted in late May. She wanted to get out of that marriage as soon as possible because drama and toxicity made it unbearable for her to go on any longer. The two had been married since 2015 and apparently had a number of rough patches, most notably their stance on starting a family. Olivier, who already had children with his ex-wife, didn't want any more, though Mary-Kate did. And on top of that, apparently the tipping point in their relationship was when Olivier's ex-wife moved into the couple's home. Mary-Kate seemed to have had enough with their disagreements, and especially those which involved the ex-wife, so she decided to leave her husband. Following her desire to leave, her husband apparently kicked Mary-Kate out of their home, and she was close to losing all of her personal belongings. She later realized what an awful person she married, but I'm sure she's glad to be out of that relationship now. At number 10, Mike Tyson and Robin Givens. Mike Tyson's first marriage to wife Robin Givens was a rocky one. After 11 months of dating, the couple got married in 1988 in the wake of Robin's pregnancy, and afterwards Mike gave Robin and her mother around $10 million to get them settled. In Mike's memoir, he accused Robin of marrying him and locking him into a relationship for her own gain, as he alleged that her pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage were faked in order to get him to marry her. In the media, Mike was dragged through the mud. There were allegations of mistreatment on Mike's part, and the infamous Barbara Walters interview did not help his image. The interview was originally supposed to be a one-on-one profile of Mike, but before the interview, Robin allegedly pulled Barbara aside and told her that she didn't have the whole truth about them. Robin was then invited to join the interview, where she opened up about the things that she sustained while married to Mike and commenting on how she's been treated.
And I woke up and I said, I don't deserve this. I never had this in my life before, and I'm not going to tolerate this.
Soon after the interview, Robin filed for divorce from Mike and was later caught cheating on him with Brad Pitt. Mike most definitely regrets marrying Robin, as he said so in his book, and others refer to his marriage to Robin as, quote, the one that ruined him. People online still debate who was in the wrong in this relationship and who was worse, but do you have any thoughts on this? Let me know down in the comments. At number 9, Axl Rose and Erin Everly. The tumultuous relationship of Axl Rose and Erin Everly is one that is certainly unforgettable, but not necessarily in the best way. The two met while Axl, the frontman for Guns N' Roses, was still a struggling musician in the early days of his music career. Erin became one of the most important people in Axl's life, being the inspiration for the song Sweet Child of Mine. Despite being a good-looking match on the outside, they had a tumultuous relationship, but that didn't stop them from getting married at a Las Vegas ceremony in 1990. Axl allegedly forced Erin into the marriage after he threatened to harm himself if she didn't marry him, so things were already off to a pretty toxic start. The marriage was later annulled in 1991, just 9 months after getting married, and in 1994, Erin filed a civil lawsuit against Axl, where she alleged that she was mistreated by her then husband. Since the split, Erin has auctioned off memorabilia that she had kept from her days with Axl in the band, looking to rid herself of any trace of her old ties with them, as she's carried a lot of that pain with her for so long. From what she said about her marriage to Axl, things were certainly bad, and he wasn't the best person to be married to by a long shot. Before we carry on talking about some of these horrible celebrity marriages, why not subscribe to see more videos like this one, and leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far. At number 8, Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Prince Charles and Princess Diana were one of the most beloved celebrity couples. The whole world loved them. Well, they loved Diana more than anything. She was considered to be the people's princess, but behind closed doors she was living a hard life, neglected by her husband. She was always second best in Charles' eyes, having never gotten over his infatuation for Camilla Parker Bowles. Charles and Diana got married in 1981 and had 2 kids together, but because of Charles' extramarital affairs and Diana's unhappiness in the relationship, they got divorced in 1996. Diana regretted marrying Charles because she always knew that there would always be 3 people in the marriage: her, Charles, and Camilla. She deserved so much better, but she got Charles' cold shoulder instead. She was loved by the world, and eventually, after she was freed from the royal family, that became enough. Now, I'm not saying that Charles is an awful person himself, but their whole marriage just wasn't very positive, and Diana got into a pretty unfortunate situation when she married the prince. At number 7, Audrina Patridge and Corey Bowen. The Hill star Audrina Patridge and BMX athlete Corey Bowen had a toxic and tumultuous relationship that was really just negative in every sense of the word. After about 7 years of dating, the couple got engaged in November of 2015 and were soon married by the following year after welcoming their daughter Kira into the world. By 2018, they were done and the legal battle began. Audrina alleged that Corey was violent towards her. Leading up to their official divorce, Audrina had been granted a restraining order preventing Corey from being within 100 feet of his wife and daughter. Audrina claimed that Corey had been very aggressive towards her on multiple occasions and that she just couldn't take it anymore. Luckily, she was able to get out of that horrible relationship and probably regrets getting into it in the first place. Needless to say, this was an awful marriage through and through. At number 6, Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio. When Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio got married, it was a pretty big deal. The actress and the athlete looked like a beautiful match who were deeply in love, having met and married within a relatively short amount of time. They looked to be head over heels for each other, but some believe that their marriage was rushed because it all took place within the time that they had between work engagements. They got married in a quiet city hall ceremony in January 1954 and turned a work trip to Japan into their honeymoon. But just 9 months later, that spark had faded and their relationship crumbled apart. Joe allegedly wanted a stay-at-home wife, but because Marilyn was at the height of her career, she wouldn't agree to that and wanted to keep working. Joe also apparently had a hard time coming to terms with his wife's image, and apparently her famous subway grate scene was the last straw. Their marriage ended with Marilyn citing mental cruelty as one of the reasons behind their divorce. She didn't like how her husband didn't want to support her, and that's just not what she needed in her life then. In a relationship, you need to be able to support your partner no matter what, so clearly this wasn't a very good match. At number 5, Eddie Murphy and Tracy Edmonds. Comedian Eddie Murphy has had his quarrels with love. After a number of failed relationships, he thought he found the one when he met producer Tracy Edmonds. They dated for a few months before getting engaged, eventually leading to a lavish $500,000 wedding in Bora Bora. You know, things are getting serious when you take it all the way to a tiny island in the middle of the ocean. Their wedding, which was attended by 25 people, wasn't technically legally binding, but they had planned to go through with the whole process upon getting back to the United States after their ceremony, but unfortunately that never ended up happening. It's said that things started to go downhill quite quickly after the ceremony, as people reported Eddie being standoffish and not wanting to spend time with his new bride. Other guests who stayed on the island after the ceremony reported that they could hear Eddie and Tracy yelling at each other, fighting, which ended with Tracy in tears. Just 2 weeks after the wedding, they decided that marriage just wasn't for them and they called it quits. Even though they weren't technically legally married, their marriage was still awful, and they were equally as bad for each other. Maybe it's for the best that things didn't work out. At number 4, Lena Waithe and Alana Mayo. Screenwriter Lena Waithe and her ex-wife Alana Mayo surprised fans when they announced that they had gotten married in a private and secret ceremony that was a spur-of-the-moment decision, but just 2 months later they announced their separation. In a joint statement to their supporters, the couple announced that they were splitting up, and so as fans do, they speculated as to why they ended their relationship so quickly. Rumors that Lena had been unfaithful started swirling, and some sources even said that their relationship had been rocky even before the couple got married. According to some, Lena and Alana's wedding came after multiple cases of cheating, and that even after their wedding, Lena was still buying expensive gifts for other women. Allegedly, this was all too much for Alana to handle, and so they called it quits. Cheating in a relationship is always a recipe for disaster, and marrying a cheater is just so unfortunate, but at least you get to move on to bigger and better things. At number 3, Cardi B and Offset. Cardi and Offset have had a rocky relationship, and many people say that they are both just awful for each other. Because of all the drama that these two have had in the past during their marriage, and the fact that they almost got divorced, I think it's safe to say that things have been bad before, and it's honestly kind of debatable whether things are actually okay now or not. Though they have been married for over 3 years and have kids together, apparently that hasn't stopped Offset from seeking comfort elsewhere. As I mentioned, Cardi even filed for divorce from Offset in 2020 because of his infidelity, though they later got back together after he spoiled her for her birthday, buying her a $300,000 car and dedicating a billboard to her. Offset has had a number of cheating scandals over the course of his relationship with Cardi. In 2018, about a year after the couple got married in secret, Offset faced rumors that he had cheated on Cardi and even made an adult film with another woman. Back in 2020, he faced more cheating allegations when it was rumored that he even fathered a child during this affair. A lot of people say that this is a toxic relationship, but they just keep coming back to each other, so I guess we'll just have to wait and see how things play out, I guess. At number 2, JLo and Alex Rodriguez. Now, even though they weren't technically married, Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez still had the intention of doing so. That is, until things got messy and Alex was caught in a cheating scandal. Cheating scandals aren't anything new for the baseball player, having been accused of infidelity in the past, but this new scandal might have been the one where JLo said enough is enough and called off the wedding. In January of this year, Alex was accused of cheating on JLo with reality TV star Madison LaCroix. This rumor started circulating after LaCroix was accused of having an alleged affair with a former MLB player. And this was brought up during a taping of a reality reunion show. Shortly after the taping aired, these allegations escalated, with Madison admitting to having been in contact with A-Rod. She insisted that their communications were innocent, saying that they never met up and never had any physical contact, saying, quote, "He's never physically cheated with his fiancée with me." The only solid proof that we have of A-Rod being in contact with Madison comes from a source close to Alex, who told sources that Alex had slid into Madison's DMs and that they had exchanged some, quote, thirsty photos. Not too long after this all went down, A-Rod and JLo announced that they were breaking up and called off their engagement. Cheaters are awful. Period. And finally, at number 1, Jana Kramer and Mike Cosson. I stand by the saying, once a cheater, always a cheater, and so do a lot of people who've been in failed relationships. Once your partner does you wrong once, it takes a lot to regain that trust, and sometimes after a bond is broken. This seems to have been the case with football player Mike Cosson and his wife, singer and actress Jana Kramer. The couple faced a cheating scandal in 2016, and after that they spent the next few years trying to work on their marriage, trying to reconcile after this drama affected them so greatly, but the couple recently called it quits on their marriage when Jana took to social media in late April to announce their divorce. Her message to the public read, quote, "It's time. I try to make sense of a reality I never wanted to believe could be possible again. Those words have now become reality. I've fought, y'all. I've loved hard. I've forgiven. I put the work in. I've given everything I have, and now I have nothing else to give." The couple briefly split following the cheating scandal I mentioned before, where Mike's secrets were exposed, and though they were able to make amends and try to work on regaining their bond, things just weren't meant to work out in the long term, it seems. In her filings, Jana also cited causes and reasons for their divorce, saying that, quote, "Inappropriate marital conduct, irreconcilable differences, and adultery were the reasons behind their failed marriage." In the end, people came to see that Jana married a pretty awful person, but the fact that they're free from each other is for the best, so now they can move on and grow from this. At number 10, Kenya Duke and Gary Owen. Imagine being betrayed by your partner after 20 years of marriage. Well, that's essentially what Kenya Duke went through after she found out that her husband Gary Owen had been cheating. Kenya Duke filed for divorce in March of this year, making allegations that her husband had been unfaithful in their marriage. After news broke of their divorce filing, Kenya took to her Instagram to imply that her husband had an affair with a woman from Dallas, someone who was mutual friends with Gary and reality TV star Claudia Jordan. In a now deleted Instagram post, Kenya sent a message to the other woman, whom she calls Dallas, Texas, saying, quote, "Dallas, Texas, I have your info. I'm going to deal with you in a minute. I'm a little busy now. You can have him, but you can't disrespect me and my kids in the process. At Gary Owen Comedy, let her know a storm is coming. You should know better. Married, not separated. Married." End quote. But Kenya wasn't done clapping back though, because she also followed this message up with one that was meant for her husband, where she said, quote, "All the energy you spent lying, acting, and creating a fake narrative for these women that you want to be me, you could have done it with a veggie burger and a glass of fake filtered water." End quote. I've said it in every single one of these videos, but being with a cheater just means you married an awful person. At number 9, Tiger Woods and Ellen Norgren. One of the most famous cheating scandals from pro golfer Tiger Woods in 2009 shattered his golden boy image and made him look like an awful person. It all started with a car crash. Tiger had crashed his Cadillac into a fire hydrant, and this incident made headlines, but it also drew attention to another headline that he had made days earlier after tabloids published a story alleging that Tiger was having an affair with a nightclub manager. Soon, one alleged affair turned into many more, as 6 women ended up coming forward, saying that they had also had intimate relationships with the golfer. His wife was understandably furious to find out about all of her husband's affairs, and their marriage was ruined after that. I'm sure she no doubt regretted ever marrying such an awful person in the first place. Before we continue talking about celebrities who made horrible marriage decisions, why not take a moment to leave a like on this video to help support the channel, and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Maria Shriver. Actor and former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, was caught in a very messy and high-profile cheating scandal that not only brought life into the world but ruined relationships and turned him into an awful person. In 1997, Arnold had an affair with the family's former housekeeper Patty, and she soon became pregnant with his son. At the very same time, Arnold's wife was also expecting their 4th kid. As if the universe wanted to make things extra chaotic for Arnold, both his wife and mistress ended up giving birth within 5 days of each other, though they wouldn't know about one another until about a decade later. But much like all secrets, they come out eventually, and Arnold ended up coming clean to his wife about his affair in 2007. This information wasn't immediately shared with the public until 2011, where things blew up. Arnold revealed his infidelity to the public after announcing that he and his wife Maria were separating, while also revealing the truth about his kid with his mistress. This wasn't fair to Arnold's wife nor his mistress because this secret really blew up their lives and it affected their kids too, so Maria certainly married someone awful. At number 7, Woody Allen and Mia Farrow. Now, even though they weren't actually married, I felt like I had to include Woody Allen and Mia Farrow's relationship on here because of just how messed up it was, because Woody had an affair with Mia's adopted daughter, and that is seriously messed up. Mia's daughter Soon-Yi was adopted when she was about 7 years old, and because Mia and Woody were together, Woody became a father figure to her. In 1992, when Soon-Yi was 21, Mia discovered that her daughter and her partner Woody were in a secret relationship when she found intimate photos of Soon-Yi. When Mia confronted Woody, he revealed that he and Soon-Yi had been together for a short time and that he was in love with her. This subsequently ended their relationship, and Allen moved on with Soon-Yi, later getting married in 1997. When reports came out about their marriage, this took a lot of people by surprise and made a lot of people angry. Woody was deemed a pretty horrible person for getting with Mia's daughter, and people haven't been able to stop thinking about how creepy and wrong that is. Woody and Soon-Yi seem fine with it all, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Woody is an awful person for that. At number 6, David Letterman and Regina Lasko. When people are having an affair, they become very secretive as to not get caught, but in most cases, cheaters are almost always exposed so people can see what a horrible person this cheater is. This is what happened with David Letterman, as someone caught wind of his scandalous extramarital entanglements. In October 2009, on his late night talk show, David Letterman got serious with his audience and he exposed his affair and revealed to the public that he had been intimately involved with someone from the studio. He also revealed that this revelation he is sharing was because someone was threatening to blackmail him for $2 million. He said that one day he found a mysterious package sitting in his car and it included proof of his affair and a demand to be paid in order to keep things quiet. He said that if he didn't pay up, his blackmailer would reveal his secrets to the public, but rather than get swallowed up in the scandal, he faced it head on. Soon details of his affair started to come to light, detailing how he had slept with women who worked for him at the studio. He was married at the time of this scandal and remains so to this day. The couple were able to work through things, but David is still an awful person for cheating on his spouse. At number 5, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Brangelina used to be one of the hottest celebrity matches in Hollywood, but ever since their split, it's been dark times for them, especially Brad. Once upon a time, they were seen as the industry's it couple, having spanned over 10 years and raising many kids together, but their divorce is where things get toxic and messy. When the couple announced that they were calling it quits in 2016, a lot of people wondered why, and one of the answers given was because of a dispute that Brad had allegedly had with Angelina about his substance abuse that resulted in Brad getting into an altercation with their oldest son Maddox. It was alleged that Brad was hurting others, and though an investigation cleared him of said allegations, Angie is now saying that she's prepared to share proof that Brad was in fact hurting his family. Recently, Angelina came forward saying that she's willing to offer her children's testimony against Brad as proof, and this could blow the doors off their relationship, giving us more information as to how toxic things really were. The fact that Angie claims to have proof of how bad things were shows how serious the situation was, and the fact that there's been so much drama and allegations against Brad, he might be considered to be an awful person. At number 4, Eminem and Kim Mathers. When asked about some toxic relationships they know of, a surprising amount of people reference Eminem and his ex-wife Kim Mathers because of their rocky past and marriage. Eminem met Kim in a youth home in 1988 when they were teenagers. From that point on, they stayed by each other's side even when living together at Eminem's mother's house. From that point until 1999, the two had a rocky and sort of toxic relationship, being an on and off again couple. In 1995, they had a daughter, and in 1999, the two ended up getting married. Their wedding took place on June 14th, 1999, just before Marshall's first major tour as his career was taking off. Kim said later on that this tour took the greatest toll on their marriage, saying, quote, "When Marshall's first tour started is when his ego just went poof, like he was God, that's what he thought. I was told that I should be grateful that he still talks to me. You know how many women and throw themselves at him, and I just pretty much felt like a piece of crap." End quote. From then, their marriage went downhill as they were met with cheating scandals and mental health struggles. Eventually, they got a divorce in 2000, remarried in 2006, then divorced again, this time ending things for good. Because of how toxic things were between them, I guess it could be argued that Eminem was an awful partner. At number 3, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Now, having a list of celebrities who married awful people, you already know we're going to include Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's tumultuous relationship. A lot was uncovered during their massive court case last year that basically exposed Amber for having hurt Johnny while they were together and having been a horrible partner. We heard stories about Amber severing Johnny's finger with a glass bottle, many of the fights that they had, and even recordings of Amber antagonizing and hurting Johnny. There were instances of physical mistreatment as well as verbal and emotional as well, showing the world how toxic things really were behind closed doors. We found out about how Amber had been cheating on Johnny and how she allegedly went out of her way to outshine him in their industry, always being ready to make big headlines to overshadow him. Amber was no doubt one of the most awful people a celebrity could have married. At number 2, Kim Kardashian and Damon Thomas. Before Kim Kardashian was ever with Kanye West or Kris Humphries, she was married to a man named Damon Thomas. Kim and Damon eloped in 2000 when Kim was 19, but their marriage only lasted until 2004. Damon was 10 years older than her, and Kim accused him of, quote, poisoning her against her friends and family, and that he urged her to drop out of college. Kim also said that he would be violent towards her. On top of that, she's also said that Damon encouraged her to get plastic surgery so that she would look perfect. On the flip side of this, Damon alleged that Kim was only accusing him of all that in an attempt to get more money out of him in the divorce settlement. Either way, it sounds like Kim went through a lot of negativity with him, and she certainly married an awful person. And finally, at number 1, Kathy Griffin and Matthew Moline. In a relationship, when trust is broken, it's very hard to rebuild it. That's why a lot of relationships and marriages crumble, and this is part of the reason why Kathy Griffin divorced her husband Matthew Moline in 2005. Kathy opened up about what broke their marriage when talking to Larry King when she said, quote, "My ex-husband, without my knowledge, was sneaking into my wallet when I was asleep in the mornings and taking my ATM cards of my own private accounts and withdrawing money. He admitted it and apologized, and we went to couples therapy. I really wanted to make it work. Unfortunately, we were not able to get beyond the trust issue. To steal from your partner is super sketchy and makes you a pretty awful person, because not only are you breaking trust and being dishonest, but you're taking something away from this person who worked really hard to acquire it." At number 10, Melinda Gates and Bill Gates. Earlier this year, Bill and Melinda Gates had been in and out of the news regarding their divorce, ending their marriage of nearly 30 years. After they announced that they were separating, more and more news started to come out about Bill, which shows that Melinda wasn't always happy and probably regretted her marriage to him at times. The moment where she really wanted to leave, though, was when her husband began a friendship and close bond with Jeffrey Epstein, turning him into a pretty horrible person. Information has come out suggesting that Melinda had made the decision to begin the divorcing process in 2019 after a report by the New York Times had linked Bill and Jeffrey, showing that she just didn't want to be with such a horrible person anymore. Melinda had previously warned Bill about the billionaire when they first met back in 2013. However, despite her forewarnings, Bill allegedly continued to meet with Epstein, later leading him to getting exposed for their relationship when Epstein was arrested in 2019. Melinda seemingly wanted out of her marriage as soon as she realized that Bill was in too deep with Epstein. After all this came out, you can really start to see what Melinda was dealing with for all of those years, and that she had been dealing with an unhappy marriage for quite a while. At number 9, Jude Law and Sienna Miller. Cheaters are awful people, so I guess this next actor falls under that category. Actor Jude Law was involved in a cheating scandal in the early 2000s that destroyed his potential marriage to Sienna Miller and left a lot of people so surprised. After getting engaged in 2004, Jude Law was exposed for cheating on his fiancée with a woman named Daisy Wright. In 2006, Daisy, the nanny for Jude's children, came forward about how she and Jude were allegedly having an affair. She ended up spilling the beans on their whole relationship in an interview she did with the Sunday Mirror, and went in depth about her affair with the actor, sharing every scandalous detail. A lot of people were shocked to hear about this whole affair, but eventually Jude came clean to the public about everything and issued an apology to Sienna. Now, even though they weren't married yet, it was a plan to do so, so it counts, right? Jude ruined his potential future marriage because he decided to cheat, so that's pretty unfortunate that their marriage ended before it even began. Before we carry on talking about some of the horrible people that some celebrities have married, why not take a brief moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Beyonce and Jay-Z. Even the biggest celebrity couples have their problems, and sometimes they can be fixed. Take Beyonce and Jay-Z for example. A lot of people think that Beyonce married an awful person for what Jay-Z has put her through, especially with their troubles with infidelity. It all started when Solange and Jay-Z got into that big elevator fight at the Met. There was a lot of drama surrounding that fight, but no one really knew what provoked it until word came out saying that it was because Jay-Z had cheated. Though no one really acknowledged or spoke out about this apparent infidelity, things got worse when Beyonce low-key exposed her husband's infidelity on her album Lemonade, where she made several subtle and not so subtle comments about her husband's alleged affair. Jay-Z had to respond with his music, where he apologized to his wife for his infidelity and addressed some of their relationship issues. After all of this drama both in and out of the music world, they were able to seek out couples therapy to rebuild their relationship, but for a while there, things looked pretty bad and it looked like Beyonce may have made a mistake by marrying Jay-Z. At number 7, Kim K and Kanye West. Kanye has been through a lot over the last year or so. He lost the presidential race and now he's lost his marriage, and Kim's moved on with Pete Davidson of all people. Kim and Kanye's relationship looked like it had been on its last leg for a while, especially after all of the drama between Kanye and the Kardashians following his presidential campaign rant and his Twitter meltdowns. Kanye has even said that he knows he didn't do enough to make their relationship survive. There was, however, a lot more going on behind the scenes that we didn't quite know about. Apparently, there came a point where things got too complicated and too toxic to handle. Kim talked about some of the rocky things that happened with her and Kanye towards the end, like how he spent much of his time away from his family in Wyoming and how their communication was at an all-time low. There were also reports that Kim and Kanye were fighting a lot, and there was also a rumor that Kanye had tried to sleep with another woman while still married to Kim. Things were clearly just very toxic and weren't meant to work out in the long run, so it could be argued that maybe Kim shouldn't have married Kanye. At number 6, Catherine Pais and Austin McBroom. Basketball player turned YouTube family vlogger Austin McBroom has been in countless scandals over the years, and the amount of times he's been accused of cheating on his wife Catherine is just too much to count. He's no doubt an awful person for being unfaithful to his partner, and though he continues to deny each accusation, they still keep coming. One of the latest scandals he faced alleged that not only did he have a secret relationship with another woman, but that he has a secret daughter too. A TikTok user took to the platform to make the allegation that Austin was the secret father of her child and that Austin's wife paid the other woman to terminate her pregnancy. This was mostly just speculation, but after someone else came forward claiming to work at the daycare where Austin's secret daughter attends, saying that Austin is listed in the child's paperwork as the legitimate father, people were starting to wonder if this is actually true. Like I said before, these cheating allegations really aren't anything new for Austin, so no one knows what to think anymore. But one thing is for certain, and that is Catherine married a pretty awful guy. At number 5, LaToya Luckett and Thomas Walker. Former Destiny's Child member LaToya Luckett and ex-husband Thomas Walker had a really rocky falling out, and it could be said that she married an awful person. The R&B singer announced earlier this year that she and her husband were getting a divorce following a cheating scandal that started up last year. In the fall of 2020, footage was leaked which allegedly showed Tommy in a hotel room with another woman. The video showed a man who looked like Tommy asleep in the room, and another video alleged that some kind of indiscretion had taken place that night. The evidence to support the allegations saying that this is in fact Thomas in the video is that the man in the footage has a very similar tattoo of the name Ruby on his leg. It seems as though this was all the evidence that was needed for LaToya to want to call it quits and leave her husband. Thomas denies all cheating allegations, blaming, quote, outside forces on the downfall of his marriage, but judging by what happened, I think it's a case of cheaters being horrible people. At number 4, Wiz Khalifa and Amber Rose. Wiz Khalifa and Amber Rose were married for some time after tying the knot in 2013, but after 14 months of marriage and a lot of toxicity, they divorced, and it was a pretty nasty breakup. There were allegations of cheating, and the custody of their son was also up for debate. Years later, Amber Rose opened up about her brief marriage to Wiz Khalifa and the toxicity around it, and spoke out about her regrets concerning their marriage. She once said how she regretted getting married when she did because they didn't give themselves enough time to grow in their relationship, and that this was one of the things that contributed contributed to the hostility. Amber also expressed that she felt as though they would have had a more successful marriage if they got married later in life, calling their wedding at the time a mistake. Now, I'm going to argue that maybe they were just awful people for each other because their whole situation was just one big mess, but what do you guys think? At number 3, Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. Before Brangelina took over Hollywood, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston were a thing. Jennifer and Brad's romance story began in the 90s, meeting for the first time in 1994, but going on their first date in 98. After 2 years of dating, the wedding of the year took place in 2000 on a bluff in Malibu. Things were okay until Angelina came into the picture after she and Brad met while working on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Fast forward a little bit to 2005 and Bennifer was over. They filed for divorce, making room for Brangelina. It was a whirlwind breakup because of the cheating scandals and rumors, as it was said that Brad cheated on Jen with Angie and she became the other woman of sorts. Even as things died down over the years, tabloids would still bring up this drama from time to time, almost making it seem as though things weren't exactly over for this unfortunate love triangle. I guess you could say that Jen married an awful person for what Brad put her through. At number 2, Chrissy Teigen and John Legend. Hurting others is always negative, and going out of your way to put someone down can make you an awful person. No one deserves to be treated poorly, and no one should support that kind of behavior. This is what makes Chrissy Teigen such an awful person, and since John Legend married her, this couple fits this list. This year, Chrissy was exposed for her dark side. She faced backlash for resurfaced tweets and DMs directed at Courtney Stodden from back in the day. These messages were really hurtful and mean, and they really hurt Courtney, as they've come out saying that these messages affected them greatly when they were younger. When Chrissy got canceled, she didn't handle it well and didn't really take accountability for her actions and made the backlash towards her an even bigger deal, playing the victim in this whole situation. This behavior isn't something positive, and I couldn't imagine being married to someone so negative. And finally, at number 1, Marilyn Manson and Lindsay Usage. A huge scandal that happened this year came from singer Marilyn Manson, and it shocked a lot of people as it exposed all the terrible things that he's done to past partners. It all started when his ex-partner, actress Evan Rachel Wood, came forward in an Instagram post to name Manson as someone who had harmed her for a long time. In her statement, Evan cited how manipulative Marilyn was, accusing him of brainwashing her, and told her fans about how Manson caused her so much mental, physical, and emotional pain. This caused more people to come forward later on, including Game of Thrones actress Esme Bianco, who came forward with some of the horrible encounters she had with Manson. Knowing all of this, Marilyn could certainly be called an awful person, and once again, I couldn't imagine being married to this person after knowing all of this.
At number 10, Iggy Azalea and Nick Young. When you've been unfaithful to your partner, it pretty much makes you an awful person, and you're bound to get exposed for it, especially if you're a celebrity. No one really gets away with cheating, especially these days because of our presence on social media, making things difficult to hide. Back in 2016, basketball player Nick Young was exposed by one of his teammates for having cheated on his then fiancée, Iggy Azalea. D'Angelo Russell, Nick's teammate, had recorded Nick talking about how he had cheated on Iggy, and the footage was leaked to the internet. This caused Iggy to postpone their wedding, but things ultimately ended a few months later after Iggy caught Nick on her security cameras bringing in other women into their house when she wasn't there. This was the last straw for Iggy, but it also didn't help Nick's case after it was alleged that he had gotten his ex pregnant again while still in a relationship with Iggy. It certainly is a good thing that they didn't end up getting married. At number 9, Khloe Kardashian and Tristan Thompson. At this point, knowing that Tristan Thompson is a pretty awful partner really isn't anything new. Now, I know that Khloe and Tristan aren't actually married, but they're pretty close, and I mean, we can't talk about awful partners without discussing their toxic relationship. All of their relationship drama started back in 2018, and we're still seeing the two of them making headlines together in 2021, so I mean, they're kind of perfect for this list. In April 2018, just shortly before their daughter True was born, photos of Tristan appearing to cheat were leaked, and obviously this wasn't good, but things got even worse when TMZ leaked footage from 2017, which showed Tristan allegedly kissing women at a club. Things mostly died down after their daughter was born, but later in 2019, more cheating allegations came out detailing how he had been cheating on Khloe again, this time with their longtime family friend Jordan Woods. This ended them for good, or so we thought. Now in 2021, people are still talking about them, and honestly, I don't know what's going on with them anymore. Before we carry on talking about some of the worst celebrity couples and what went wrong, why not leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, consider subscribing subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Mariah Carey and Tommy Mottola. In September 2020, singer Mariah Carey revealed in her memoir, The Meaning of Mariah Carey, that she had once been unfaithful to her first husband. In her book, Mariah wrote about how during her first marriage to music executive Tommy Mottola, she cheated on him with baseball star Derek Jeter. Mariah talked about how she felt trapped in her marriage because of the age difference and because her husband was controlling. Now, cheating isn't necessarily excusable, but after opening up about how Tommy treated her, you can kind of see why she wanted to escape and find someone new. Tommy's treatment of Mariah prompted her to seek out a temporary escape, and after meeting Derek at a dinner party in 1997, she bonded with him. Mariah also revealed that soon she and Derek started talking, leading to them to having a quote, warm, slow, intoxicating kiss on Derek's roof. End quote. The singer said that after that kiss they never went any further because she was still married, saying quote, neither of us wanted to cheapen our romance by cheating on my marriage. End quote. Both Mariah and Tommy were awful partners to each other. At number 7, Dominic West and Catherine Fitzgerald. In the fall of 2020, actor Dominic West shocked a lot of people, including his wife, when photos surfaced online of him looking to be getting pretty close with actress Lily James. The leaked images showed the actor ringless on an outing, getting cozy with his co-star in Rome. He was spotted kissing and caressing the actress, and there were sources claiming that he and Lily had shared a hotel room as well. When reports of this alleged affair came out, a source close to Dominic's wife, Catherine, said that she was quote, devastated and heartbroken, going on to say that she believed that she and her husband had a good marriage. Clearly, there was something wrong there. This scandal, however, took an interesting turn just days after the story first broke, as Dominic and his wife were spotted together kissing in front of paparazzi, and the couple even released a handwritten note to news outlets saying quote, our marriage is strong and we're very much still together, end quote. Now, not only did Dominic cheat, but Catherine still took him back after all that. You cannot catch me forgiving someone like that, especially after it became public. Dominic was certainly an awful person for putting his wife through all of that. At number 6, Jesse Metcalfe and Cara Santana. In 2020, Desperate Housewives actor Jesse Metcalfe and actress Cara Santana called it quits after a 10-year-long relationship, and things were pretty messy. After announcing their breakup publicly in the days following, they were hit with a cheating scandal as cheating allegations came out after Jesse was seen with another woman just days before news broke of the couple's separation. On top of that, paparazzi images showed Jesse with a blonde woman who he appeared to have his arm around and kissing her cheek. Basically, he was caught red-handed. To make matters worse, the actor was allegedly seen with another woman whom he was getting close to. Everything happened so fast that Cara told sources that she felt totally blindsided by the whole affair and that she thought everything was fine between them. To make matters worse for Cara, she apparently didn't know that they were broken up until she saw it in the news. It's alleged that there was no face-to-face breakup and that she found out when the rest of the public did too. They were set to get married in the near future, so you know, technically she didn't marry this awful partner, but she almost did, and it would have been even worse to find out about all of this infidelity after tying the knot. At number 5, Kevin Hart and Aniko Hart. Kevin Hart had a lot of making up to do after his explosive cheating scandal made him look like an awful person. Kevin was caught cheating on his wife Aniko Parrish after someone came forward trying to extort the comedian for $10 million in exchange for not releasing footage which showed him being unfaithful to his wife. Since he had essentially been caught, he owned up to his actions and issued a public apology to Aniko on his Instagram where he said quote, I made a bad error in judgment and put myself in an environment where only bad things can happen, and they did. At the end of the day, I gotta do better, but I'm also not going to allow a person to have financial gain off my mistakes, and in this particular situation, that's what was attempted, end quote. Some people pointed out that his apology didn't really include much accountability for his actions, but it was enough to keep Kevin and Aniko together, even though the trust in their relationship was seriously broken. They welcomed their first child together shortly after the scandal happened, and they continued to support one another, but that doesn't take away from the fact that Aniko is with a pretty awful partner. At number 4, Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith. After finding herself in a bit of a summer scandal, Jada Pinkett Smith was the center of attention for a little while last year after her entanglement with singer August Alsina went public. Jada faced some backlash for her relationship with the singer for a few reasons, one of which obviously being her relationship with Will Smith. When news broke of Jada's relationship with August, people immediately thought that she had been cheating on Will. Will, and that this news was going to blow up in his face. Many fans sent their support to Will because it looked like he had been facing a huge cheating scandal, but after discussing it on their Facebook watch show, Red Table Talk, they revealed that the two of them had separated a few years ago and that they were more so in an open relationship. Regardless, people still believe that Jada was pretty awful because Will looked to be a little hurt by her entanglement with August. But what do you think? Was it considered cheating? And do you think Jada is an awful person for doing this? At number 3, Clark Gable. Old Hollywood has a whole lot of mystery and scandal hidden behind a bright, shiny Hollywood sign. There was some dark stuff that went down back then, and it's only now that people are actually talking about it. One scandal that people were fascinated with was about actor Clark Gable and his secret daughter. While starring in the 1935 film The Call of the Wind alongside actress Loretta Young, Clark was involved in an extramarital affair with his co-star, and their affair ended with them producing a daughter. Not only did he become an awful person for having an affair and bringing another life into the world through it, but they also set that kid up for a life full of drama because they tried to cover it all up. Because a scandal like this would have meant the end of their careers, they tried to cover it up, but obviously we still found out. Loretta tried to conceal her pregnancy as best she could, even coming up with an elaborate plan to go on holiday as soon as her bump became too difficult to hide. She ended up having the baby and gave her up for adoption. Despite their effort to cover it all up, they were eventually exposed because the baby, whom they named Judith, inherited Clark's signature ears. All of this just made Clark look pretty bad, and honestly I feel bad for his spouse, but then again, Clark had a history of cheating, so this wasn't the first time he was seen in a bad light. At number 2, Anne Hathaway. Now, even though they didn't end up getting married, they were still pretty close to it, and it's probably for the best that things ended when they did, because Anne Hathaway nearly married a pretty horrible person. The actress was once in a 4-year relationship with Italian businessman Raffaello Folori, and they were reportedly close to getting married. That is until things came crashing down when it was discovered that Raffaello was involved in money laundering. He was arrested in 2008, and as you can imagine, the relationship stopped right then and there, and it's a good thing that she didn't stick around. And finally, at number 1, Mario Lopez and Ali Laundrie. Turns out that perhaps Mario Lopez isn't as nice as we may have thought, because apparently he cheated on his soon-to-be wife Ali Laundrie just days before their wedding. Mario confessed to Howard Stern in 2011 that back in 2004 he had cheated on Ali during his bachelor party. That's a pretty awful thing to do. I mean, just days before tying the knot too. Understandably, their marriage didn't last long at all, and they got it annulled just 2 weeks after getting married. To make matters worse though, Mario wrote about the experience in his memoir where he revealed that he didn't even love Ali, saying, quote, "Lightning hit me with the truth. I wasn't in love, but I walked down the aisle anyway."